Hey, we are live in the building. You already know what it is. It's Mr. Williams with the I Talk Great podcast. And we going live today. I got a great guest. Oh, okay, she already here. I love that. I'm getting ready to send it to you right now. Hey, I ain't even had to search. She hopped in right at 3. I love it. Hey, she's already here. We ain't had to wait. The doctor is here. The doctor is in the building. Oh, hey, the doctor is here.
Hello,
What?
hello. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Queen? 3 o'clock. Yo, I was like, I'm so used to everybody strolling in, and she's punctual. The
Uh-uh.
doctor is
Yes,
punctual.
definitely punctual. Punctual to the point that, at weddings, the bride's usually late. Yeah, no, my friends know me. They were on time. They were early to the wedding, waiting, and they were expecting it to start on time, and it did. So yeah,
Hey,
I don't pull that.
yo,
Mm-mm.
I
And
love
I was
that. I
here.
feel like,
I I was here a few minutes to 3. I wasn't even here on 3. I was here
oh, yeah.
like 2:58.
Yeah, because I seen it like soon as I did. I was like, hold on, she right there. I was like, hold on, what the hell? And we got to do better as a people. I don't like when we say, like, oh, black time. It's like we
Correct.
always strolling in. We got to understand, like, time is so important. You can't get it back.
Correct. And it costs money. It has
Yes.
a value, or time has a value. So when we understand that time has a monetary value,
Mhm.
we'll respect time a lot more.
Hey, I like that. She already coming in out the gate, dropping bars. I love it. I love it. So we here with the doctor, y'all. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let everybody know who you are, what you do, what you specialize in, and everything.
Awesome. So my name is Dr. Jeanette Brooks George. I am a university professor of multiple disciplines. I teach sociology, criminal justice, education, public administration, business, leadership. Those are the topics I teach because I have a bunch of different graduate degrees. My specialty, I am also a psychosociologist because I started a psychology course, didn't finish it up, but I have a lot of psychology courses. I can teach psychology at university also. And I marry my psychology training and my sociology training in my research. I have an organization. It is called Unmute Yourself Incorporated. That is my nonprofit organization where I am fully committed to my work. This organization is one that focuses on disrupting interpersonal violence in the community, and interpersonal violence encompasses sexual violence, such as human trafficking, domestic violence, teen dating violence, and it also encompasses community gun violence. So I do research in these realms. I do awareness about these topics, teaching individuals how to identify the signs. I just completed a series of workshops in the city of Lauderhill where we focused on community conversations that created a space for therapeutic engagement as well as opportunities to bring awareness to the topics of domestic violence and its different forms.
Mm.
Starting in the next year, we're pivoting to my allyship training, where we're going to create a cohort of individuals, like a class course program. It will be an 8-week program where for 7 weeks you're going to get intensive training on the different types of interpersonal violence, more specifically on the domestic violence side, but encompassing some elements of teen dating violence. And so we're going to do 7 weeks of training where you're going to be equipped. You're going to have handouts. You're going to have a small textbook where you can refer back to as an individual who is now considered having a level of expertise, and you get a certificate at the end where you have a full understanding of what DV looks like in its various forms, and how to identify and how to approach the situation as an ally in a safe manner. I don't know if we recall a few months ago, uh, a husband was in Walmart with his wife and kids, and he saw someone else engaging in a domestic violence altercation, and he jumped in and he lost his life. We
Oh,
teach you how to strategically engage individuals who are exhibiting symptoms of a domestic violent relationship, where you don't cause yourself harm, but
Yeah,
you make
yeah,
the perpetrator aware that I know who you are, I see you, I know what you're doing. You're not going to do it here.
yeah, yeah,
And at least creates a safe space for that person in that moment. But you don't put yourself in danger. So we're
yeah,
going to go
yeah.
through those trainings next year. We're planning to roll it out next year, 8 weeks of it. And then you get a certificate of completion when you're done. So you're certified DV ally, right?
Oh,
That's what
oh
I
my
do.
God. You do, I mean, you like, where you from? You Jamaican? Because you got like 8, 9 jobs. You got,
So I
you
have
just,
Jamaican family. I'm not Jamaican. I have Jamaican family. Spent some time there, but no. I
okay,
would
because you
say
done listed everything that, I'm like, yo, like, what don't you do? Like, you just psychosociology, PA. So do you flex the doctor title or
no. I
do you
mean,
want people?
I don't. Um, in certain settings, it is going to be used because it's an academic setting, but I don't flex it in the sense of you have to call me doctor. No, it's my accomplishment. I did it. I didn't even do any big celebration for it because it was more of just a paper that was needed to get my work done, to be taken seriously in the field, to be able
Mm,
to do research and be able to present research on larger stages as an individual going forward.
okay,
I need, the credential gives you a little bit more access. I also
okay, okay.
have a mentor, beautiful Jamaican woman, Dr. Ida Tafari, may her soul rest in peace. She and her husband, Genesis Tafari, were the trailblazers that brought Bob Marley to the US eons ago. And because Genesis works in the entertainment realm in Jamaica, the reggae entertainment scene. And
Hmm.
she took me on as her own daughter, and she told me, she said, I was doing my second bachelor's at the time, and she pulled me aside and she said, let me tell you something. You are going to get your PhD. I don't care how you figure it out, but you're getting your PhD. She said, you're too intelligent to sit here and just be done with a bachelor's. And she said, I was able to travel the world on just getting a plane ticket to get there. When I got there, I let people know that I have a PhD in anthropology, and the universities put me up. I didn't have to worry about food. I didn't have to worry about room and board. I was able to access because of my credentials. So, yes, I will flex my credentials, put some respect on my name. Yes. But in some settings, it is off-putting for individuals because they're like, oh, she thinks she all that. And I even had an opportunity presented to me to speak, and I put my name in the hat.
Yeah.
And because my biography and my credentials were so highlighted
Hmm.
in my submission, they denied me the opportunity to speak. So when I reached
Mm.
out and I was like, well, hey, what happened? I know I submitted my name as the one who wanted to speak on the platform on the topic.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, we decided that we don't want any academics. We want people with lived experience and who have grassroots perspectives. We don't want, the textbook and the sort of,
They
the
wanted
classroom
more
perspective.
like Dr.
And I was
Sebi.
like, so I was hurt because I was like, yo, I had the whole lived experience. What are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
have
Of
lived
course.
experience. And she was like, I don't see it on the thing. And I was like, that was like a light bulb moment for me where I'm like, okay, in some settings, even to go back into the community sometimes, I prefer to just come in as Jonette. And in the
Mm.
process of my delivery, in the process of, even in the finishing up, completing my conversation, then I prefer to let them know, listen, I'm also educated in this, not just a lived
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
Because especially young children, they need to see people that look like
Yeah,
them
that's
in a
correct.
particular level in society
Yeah,
because that gives context. But there are also members in society where they're like, I want to hear from her. She don't know my story. And she just, one of them
yeah,
bougie black girls. Like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's not that.
And lots of
I was
times
there.
that's lots of times what I learned is that's just what that person is feeling on the inside.
Correct.
So because I feel like, yeah, like what Lord of Hill TV said, you gotta put some respect on your name because
Correct.
you went through those steps. Like, I'm not gonna make myself smaller to make
Correct.
you
Feel
feel
better
good. Hey, I
about
stayed up.
yourself.
I don't give a damn. Yes,
Correct.
I am better than you, mom.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? I stayed up. I did the work.
Sleepless nights,
You know
exactly.
what I'm saying? Sleepless
Had to
nights.
be,
I didn't make no
had to be broken,
excuses.
busted for a period of time
Yeah,
because I had to do
I had to
research. Exactly.
sacrifice.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yes, I am better than you. So sorry, put some respect on it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't this ain't no Dr. Dre,
Correct.
or
Right.
Dr.
Right.
Sebi. Even though I respect Dr. Sebi, rest in peace,
Correct.
but he didn't go through the
Yeah.
stages.
Exactly.
So even though I feel like yes, you can still show what you're capable of doing, right? Because we don't always need their accreditation. But like you said,
Exactly.
it can put you in rooms and open up more doors so you can bring more awareness to everything that you got going on. But we
Correct.
just kind of jumped in, started blazing. Like, where are you from? Like, where your background from? Because I'm seeing like
Um,
island vibes, yardie type team. But you said you're not from Jamaica, so let everybody know
No,
like
that's
where you from.
not
Like,
not from. I've spent some time there. I have family there. I've spent lots of time
okay,
there. The culture is very, very close to who I am. I am very well versed in the culture because of my experiences in Jamaica with my cousins and family that's there. But
okay,
my schooling was done in the British Virgin Islands. I spent my summers
is that where you
outside
from?
of the Virgin Islands.
Is that where you from? The British Virgin Islands? That's where you
That
from?
I would say that's where I'm from because I went to school there. But I didn't spend summers there. Every summer
Oh,
I
what do
was
you mean?
gone.
That's what
So
you would say.
because
Like, where were you
I
born?
went to school there. Like, okay, yes, I'm from there. Yes. And I'm not denying that I'm from there or denying VI Massive and the whole VI thing, right? But, sometimes we have conversations about VI culture and I'm like, I can't answer that because I don't really spend summers there. You were being there for school and when school's out, literally on the plane the next day. So how much of the true non-academic experience was I able to get? Because it was school, athletics or performance, home.
But
I was
that's where
one of
you
those
was
kids.
born, though. That's where you was conceived. That's where your
I was
mom
I
pushed
was
you
born
out of.
I was born in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I was born in St. Croix. I have no knowledge of St. Croix. I've been there a couple of times. Don't ask me. I could
Okay.
never drive. I can't tell you
Okay.
nothing about it. I went to school in British Virgin Islands. I lived there. I could drive around the country for the most part. So yes, I'm from there. I can drive around the country for the
Okay.
most part. St. Thomas, I spent lots of time there. I could drive around the country. St.
Hey.
Kitts Nevis, I could drive around the country, and know my way around. Parts
Okay.
of parts of Clarendon and Mobile areas in Jamaica, I can kind of drive myself around a little bit because I know I've been there, familiar enough with the area. So you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have
I get what you're saying. You're
I have a I
fluid
have
in all of those areas there.
yeah, I have a lot of cultural intermixing in my life experience.
Okay, okay, okay. So they just freed cartels. So you know about that.
Yes, I heard about that. I'm happy for him. I hope he makes a positive impact this time
Yeah.
around, not just the dance hall scene, but something positive in the community, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Of course, of course.
Yes,
So tell
yes.
us, like, what made you want to go into the school? Like, I mean, go into the medical field. Like, what made you want to go into that direction? Like, walk us through that journey.
So it's not medical as in MD medical, it's PhD, right? So
Oh,
I
okay. So
decided,
educate
yes.
me.
Yeah, so it's it's on the research side. I decided to go into research because I if you don't see yourself in books, you don't see yourself in history, you don't see yourself in certain environments, you want to make a change. And in order to make a
Hmm.
change and put my narrative, my contextual experiences in recorded documents, you have to be a researcher. And in order to
Mm.
be a acclaimed and respected researcher, you need to go as far as your PhD and possibly even farther than that, which is
Okay.
postdoc work, right?
Okay. Okay.
So, so one was my mentor. She let me know, "Is no way you're gonna stop here."
Yeah. Okay.
um, and two, it was just being able to do research and participate on other research teams and other papers and projects, and develop a love for discovering new contexts and ideas and
Hmm.
finding yourself in theory that exists and not and then realizing that the theory misses your component, so we need to include ourselves in those. So
Mm.
being able to bring a new to add to the research that's already out there, but from a lens of a woman of color, from a lens of an immigrant woman, from a lens of um, you know just the perspective of even lived experience, a life
Yeah.
of living through and surviving a life of interpersonal violence and being here and understanding victimology from the lens of actually being a victim, right? And understanding the theories that talked about me and realizing these theories don't encompass everything. So
Hmm.
let me add to
Hmm.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so that's where the desire came. I've always loved to teach. I was 4 years old. My mom came in the room and caught me. She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Teaching my teddy bears." They were all lined up on the bed against the wall. And I
Okay.
had one of my boards up and I was like writing on the board. She's like, "What are you?" I remember it vividly. And she was like, I could actually still see the room set up as I'm talking to you. And she's like, um, don't you dare think you're going to be a teacher because teaching doesn't pay because she's a teacher. So she's a teacher.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Two of her brothers are also teacher educators.
Yeah.
So I come from a family of educators, but I
It's
always
in the blood.
loved, even just sharing. Just like for me, it's not even about just necessarily being a teacher and being in front of you and fussing at you and and being that controlling factor in the classroom. It's a matter of being able to share,
Hmm.
right, with you and have conversations. And if you speak to any of my students, they've all become like my kids because I started teaching at university before going to high school. Well, yeah, I left university, elementary, high school, then I stayed at middle school for some years, but university was my first place teaching. And my students, I mean, they're all gone on to be they got doctors before me and doing other things because they're young and have no responsibilities like I
Yeah.
do. So they went on and did life quickly. But a lot of them, they come back and they're like, "Yo, your class was always one of my favorite classes because you kept it real. You made the theories make sense because
Hmm.
you forced us, you applied it to your life and you forced us to apply it to our lives." And
Yeah.
it's you in that process of having the conversation around me being in the textbook and seeing myself and being able to be in that moment, being empowered to understand that you can make change,
Yes.
encourage them to go on. So, like, my classrooms have always been somewhat of like a little therapy session.
Okay. So it's
So,
always lit. Well, what made
yeah,
you
it's
go
always
from
lit. It's
what
always lit.
made you go from university to like middle school though? Like what made that shift?
So prior to university, I was in the corporate field for a long time. I did a lot of work in corporate, moved up top. I was at a law firm. I was one
Okay.
of the senior paralegals, one of the managing paralegals. They shut down. So I just want to give you context before going to education.
Okay.
They shut down, and I just got out of the entire world of finances, investments, real estate, everything, because it was a real estate law firm. So I was like, I'm getting out
Mm.
of the fire industry. Like, I have the post still on Facebook. It pops up every now and then. I'm leaving the world of fire and going straight to education, finances,
Yeah.
investments, and real estate.
Yeah.
Went to college, went back, got a second bachelor's, and I went on and fast tracked it through a bunch of masters and then the doctorate. But teaching at university, I realized that the kids came in with a weak foundation on writing papers and a
Mm.
weak foundation just expressing themselves. They didn't know how to express themselves.
Yeah.
And like I said in class, it's not me lecturing at you, it's let's have a conversation. So I was like, why is it so hard for these kids to write a simple journal entry? My assignments are journal entries in my classes, all of
Okay.
them.
Okay.
So I'm like, where's the disconnect? And they're like, we never had to write papers before. I was like, you never had to write papers? What? And they're like, not really. We just did this, and we maybe did essays once or twice in language arts, but not really. I said, okay. So I decided I shifted from university, working at university, because I was also working there full time, managing a department while teaching as an adjunct. So
Okay.
left there from it was too much of a commute. I left there and I decided I'm just gonna go to do elementary education because maybe they need help with intervention too.
Mm.
So I went in and I did the academic intervention. So I did reading intervention and math intervention pullouts with
Hmm.
fourth and fifth graders.
Hmm.
I loved it, but I couldn't do it. My mom would come home, well, because she's also elementary teacher still till this day in her old
Oh
age. They
wow.
wanted to keep
Okay.
teaching. Yeah, she's still teaching. And because she was at the school too, so we would talk. And she's like, "Dude, you can't come home, bringing the weight of these kids with you every day." And I'm like, "I don't know. It just happens." And
Mm.
later on we're gonna get into that when we talk about spirituality later on, like we
Yeah.
discussed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't realize at that time that I was truly carrying their burden spiritually. Because the kids will
Mm.
come and hug on me. You can't tell elementary kids don't hug me, so they come in and hugging, and then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and then you
Like get
feel
out
the
of
weight
here,
of
Jake.
their, yeah, but you feel the weight of the burdens that they're carrying. Because these kids were
Yeah.
kids that came to school. They were elementary kids coming to school on their own, right? They got up, got themselves dressed, and come to school. So their
Oh,
clothes
in
were
elementary
raggedy.
school, they coming to school
Yes,
on their own.
because it was one of those those poorer communities,
What
those
area is
under-resourced
this?
communities. The school was in West Park, but the kids were being bused from other parts of like Fort Lauderdale. They were bused from different parts of the community. There was a charter school, so the majority of the kids were from under-resourced communities in Broward.
Mm.
So they're
Okay,
coming
okay.
into school, and I even had to have conversation with my mom. I was like, "Ma, the reason they're coming to school with poor hygiene is because their parents are working multiple jobs. These kids are,
Yeah,
if you talk to these kids, because I get to talk to them in intervention and do, again, fun stuff to help them learn to read. So we're reading books that they want to read, that they're interested in subjects. We're talking about things that they're interested. So, maybe video games, maybe cartoon shows. Like, write to me
yeah,
about it. Like, explain it to me. Write an essay telling me the best parts of your video game. Write an essay about your favorite subject or your book or
mm,
the show you were watching or whatever. Or tell me about your day yesterday. So in that process, they're divulging their challenges. And I'm like, wow, these kids are really dealing
mm,
with a lot.
yeah.
Anyhow,
But
I
seeing,
I realized
sorry,
it was just too much.
I
Sorry?
don't mean to cut you up.
No,
Seeing
no.
that you came from the financial industry, you said, right?
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
were in that field. Did you ever feel like, okay, maybe I can educate some of the parents on how to carry about their finances a little bit better? Because I feel like that's where sometimes the disconnect could be.
Yeah. So we tried, but within that community, it was even hard to get the parents to come out because they're working multiple jobs.
Mhm.
And for them, sometimes in these communities, they are so far into survival mode, their
Ah,
their psyche, their brain, there's no bandwidth for anything other than survival. So
yeah,
again, back to the unmute yourself and the work that we do, a lot of times we have to help people process that survival mode into a safety mode. When you get to that safety mode, that place of safety, because this is a safe place, we can then start to talk about rational things and
mm,
things that
mm,
make sense for you to help you move forward.
yeah,
But for so many in our community, and even now post COVID, there are so many people that are functioning in survival mode still. So
yeah. Who you
you
telling?
and I
Yeah,
would think, well, yeah, take a moment, take a breath, and listen to what I have to say because it makes sense. It'll fix your financial situation. And they're like, yo, I can't even think because I
yeah,
have to actually go to my next job. And I need these jobs because I have one job just covers childcare, the other job covers gas, and then the other job covers our living expenses
yeah,
because
yeah,
the pay is so low.
yeah.
So, it's a
No, you telling
very
some
precarious
you talking some real
balancing
stuff.
act.
Yeah,
Yeah, so try to talk to the parents, but you realize that they've got too much going on, so that wasn't going to be a possibility. And multiple times throughout my being at schools, I've always tried to have parent groups and parent conversations about,
hmm,
just finances, things that make sense. But I realize that it's better to instill that information in the children so that
yeah,
they, even if they don't apply it because they don't have access to the things that they need to apply it with. It's still in their psyche. It's still been taught.
yeah,
And
yeah,
as they get older, they'll see where, oh, I remember when Dr. George said da 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 da.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm applying it
yeah.
now, right?
They'll be able to
So
pull from that. Yeah,
correct. So yeah, that's what I did. So I went to elementary, didn't work out because yeah, it was just too much carrying the burdens of those kids. Went to high school, it was cool, but they keep thinking that I'm their age and not that I'm, not realizing I'm older than some of their mamas. So I had to
yeah,
leave that
yeah.
because I'm about to, break some kids' hands and, bust up some mouth. Can't do that. Won't ever do that. I won't
Yeah,
ever do that.
because it's getting crazy. And these kids nowadays,
Yes.
like this new generation, I mean, I think, a lot of them are just tired because I don't feel like the school system is really beneficial right now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's more of an indoctrination. So
Yeah, it
lots of
is.
times these
It's been
kids are
that
like,
way.
yeah, it's been
It's
that way forever.
correct.
So it's like
Correct.
that's why you see a lot of people like Gary Vee, who probably was a D student, but then he left school and was able to be a multimillionaire because he didn't absorb a lot of the programming.
Correct. You see
Right?
that. You hear about people who were, according to our school system, were failing students, but then they're so successful
Yeah,
because their creativity was not stifled in
yeah,
school. Their creativity was not muted, right?
yeah.
Their
There you go.
ability to think outside the box was not discredited and said, no, that's not how you do it. That doesn't make sense. Do it
Yeah.
this way. Right. So yeah, they avoided all of that indoctrination and brain negative cognitive retooling that
Oh man,
would have
she
prevented them
hitting
from. Yeah.
cognitive
Yeah. That's
retooling.
what I
I ain't never
do.
heard of that
I
before.
I
Hold on,
I do cognitive retooling.
I gotta pull up the Google. Like I ain't never heard of the cognitive retooling. Like yo, we talking to the doctor right here today. Like
Yes.
okay, so hold on. Did you feel like you ever had to unmute yourself? I mean, I'm guessing that's where the whole unmute come from because
Of
you
course.
went through the whole schooling process.
Yes. Yes, I had to unmute myself from some of the things that I was taught. Yes, definitely. Um, people call me a rebel in some places, and I'm like, I'm not a rebel. I'm just a rule disruptor, like rule rupturer, rather. I rupture
Yeah,
the
yeah,
rule if the
yeah,
rules don't make sense. If you show me why the rule makes sense for my survival, okay, yes. But if it's just a rule to be a rule, I will rupture it and make my own pathway. Like that's just how I've
yeah.
always been. And, got a bunch of, spankings and whatever else for that. But hey, you know, that's why I'm where I am today.
Yeah,
Yeah, I felt that I had to be unmuted. Culture, a lot of culture traditions I don't subscribe to. I'm not one that, I tell people all the time, oh, I don't do that whole, it's the winter curtains and the winter stuff and the tablecloths and the summer and, you got to clean up. I clean my house. Yes, I take my curtains down, put them right back up.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not doing all of that. Like, you're not going to bully me into that kind of a stuff.
No, exactly. Do you
And,
have your own children? Do
yes,
you
I
have your
do.
own children?
I do. I do. I do. I
Okay.
have.
So how was
I,
that like process of like going to school and dealing with those kids, but then having to still deal with your own picnic them?
So I'm glad you said that because my mother, as a teacher, used to tell us, I don't want to hear no noise because I had children all day in my head. So that was something that hurt me as a child. Like you come home, you're like I remember audibly saying like under my breath nonetheless, but still
Yeah,
saying out loud,
under
ain't
your
nobody
breath.
told you.
Yes, under
Yeah,
the
I'm like,
breath.
ain't nobody told you to have kids, and ain't nobody told you to be a teacher. Like, whose fault is that? Like, I've said that out loud, and like to my little brother, like, ain't nobody. If you're working in school and you don't want to deal with kids, why you had kids,
Yeah, yeah,
or why would you
yeah,
be a teacher if you know you got kids at
yeah.
home? Like, you could have left me where I was in heaven. Like, ain't nobody told you to bring me here. Like, I literally had those conversations, and because I've had those conversations with my brother, with myself,
Yeah,
I do that with my kids too. And I'm like, and I tell people all the time, listen, you have kids. They didn't ask you to be here. You chose to bring them out of the heavenly realm into this realm. So figure it out.
yeah,
Because nobody
yeah,
told you to bring, they didn't ask to be here. Make it work. So
yeah,
for me, understanding that for myself as a parent, okay, you have these children. Nobody told you to go have a bunch of kids. You need to navigate life and figure it out. And I did. I
yeah.
did. When I look back, I am always amazed at how I, you know, worked a job in the daytime, picked them up from school, took them to my afternoon job at the music studio, taught piano. They did their lessons, went home, had maybe 2, 3 hours with them to feed them and tuck them in bed and do schoolwork. And then I would take an hour nap and then drive up to Loxahatchee to work from midnight to 5, doing home care and come back. And my mom was there. She was in the house. That's about
Okay.
it. She was in the house, just an adult body in the house,
Yeah.
um, while they were
She,
sleeping. Because
yeah.
she would remind me that I didn't make these kids, so I'm not babysitting kids because I got to go to work in the morning.
She was a
So,
grandma.
not even that. Anyways, I love her though. I
Yeah,
love her though. But
yeah,
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 she's becoming a grandma, but they're grown, so it doesn't make a sense.
yeah,
But
yeah,
she's more grandma-ish now. But yeah, you would say, I guess that's a grandma. Were
yeah,
you too cute to be a grandma? That's what it is.
yeah.
Okay,
Like, hey,
well that was
I
her.
ain't watching these damn kids. I'm out. I'm
Yeah,
outside.
correct. That's her. That was her. That was her. So, and it was okay. I navigated that. When I was there, and I had my ex-husband, but he wasn't really around per se. So, because he
Mhm.
worked nights and then he was doing his own thing because we had a toxic relationship.
Mm.
So, but I navigated it, and I had to work those multiple jobs. To one, I taught piano so my kids could go to the studio. I didn't get paid. my entire salary went to them being able to be at the studio, plus I paid a little extra what my salary didn't cover for them to take classes, right? So
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
me doing that job for them to do dance, piano, and guitar and drums and whatever else they did. I forget what else. But
yeah.
that was that job was for them to have an aftercare outlet. The night job was me saving my money to get out of that home, and my day job
Mhm.
was, my regular job. So yeah, I navigated parenting, and then my day job was at the university. So I was there, and I would do my classes during the daytime. I managed a department, so there were ebbs and flows of busyness.
Yeah.
So when we had downtime, it was okay to sit and get schoolwork done. Once your work
Mm.
was done, the department was very supportive. My kids would be at the school when school days were out in one of the office rooms. My kids have from they were younger, from birth, they've always been in adult settings because they've just been with me, and I didn't leave them with people. I didn't have people that I trusted to leave them with. So they
Ah,
were always with me whenever I had to go and do things. And I didn't stop. There was a period where I didn't do a lot because my ex-husband was controlling. But then it was the
okay.
kids are with me. So what am I possibly doing? It was like I had a boldness of like, okay, what the hell am I doing? I got 3 kids in tow. What the hell am I doing? Where am I going? What am I doing? Right? So I started doing more things, and my kids,
Yeah.
like, I was part of some groups in Miami that we used to go out and do protesting. I was part of the Occupy Miami scene with them. So my kids were there, Occupy Miami,
Okay.
protesting, hanging out, and doing things. So they were very much out there, and they would be in the meetings. I give them they either had their
Yeah.
book or their iPad,
Yeah.
depending on the weekend. And they're very disciplined. My children are very, they understood. Okay, this is mommy time. We're gonna do this stuff at mommy time because when we're done, we're gonna have our time. And I
Mhm.
never, I made sure that there was a balance,
Yeah.
right? That they had their, okay, after I'm done with my meeting, don't care how tired I am, we're going to the park, we're gonna go hang out. So y'all could get tired so that when I get home, I just shower you guys and go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They thought it
But
was
I
fun.
respect that
That was
though.
my method to madness.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I respect that because you have a lot of moms where and I know sometimes it's hard on the moms,
Mhm.
and they're just trying to live their life the best way they can and still have the balance, of like having their own personality versus now being a mother. So you have some of those moms where they didn't know how to have the balance. They turning up on a Tuesday, they dropping the kids
Exactly.
by the
Yeah.
cousins them and stuff like that. So let's
Well,
get to the point where the topic of today where I saw it on your page.
yes.
You are healing out loud, right?
Yes.
So how did you get to that level of where you're like, hey, you know what? I'm out loud with the healing. Everybody's healing now. You know what I mean? You come to me healed. So like let's walk us through that piece there.
So healing out loud, I saw it on someone else's and I reposted it, and then I rephrased it for myself in my
Okay.
post today. But um, for most of my life, I lived my life in silence because society, culture, tradition said to be silent. You were not allowed to speak up about the things that happened to you. We're just not
Hmm.
gonna go over to that person's house, or I don't believe you. You're making it up, so just be quiet about it.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So at a young age, I was violated by a caretaker, someone that was entrusted with my care, and I didn't know what it was because I didn't know. And as I grew older, as the violations occurred, I was about 7 years old when I spoke to my parent, who, you would think that when you go to your parents that they're supposed to go to bat for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I went and I shared with my mom, and I was not believed, and I was told to be quiet about it and stop telling lies and don't ever speak about it. Anyhow, went through life. I wrote stuff I had a diary because I loved Nancy Drew, and I knew she used to write in her diary, wrote in a diary. One day she found it, gave me a beating that a runaway slave would blush at. Um, when they get caught by them, the runaway slaves get caught by the slave master, you're beaten or probably killed, right? So it was
Yeah.
one of those kind of beatings, and that was a reminder to be silent, not even write about it. Okay, so go through life. go through life. Um, because of those things, individuals who have been violated at an early age, there is a spiritual side of things where the spirit of lust takes residence in who you are because you were exposed to it by the person who violated you. That allows
Mm.
you to, and outside of that aspect of it, just a psychological aspect of a person who's violated and is not validated is now vulnerable to violence, right? That's my term, my coin. So if I'm validated and I'm not validated, I'm going to be vulnerable and prone to other violence. So hence was my story. So going through trusting the wrong people, people who pretend to be a person of safety for you, not trusting myself because myself said no, but the perpetrator says, no, you enjoyed it because you were wet. My vagina is naturally an organ that is moist, and I'm using the scientific word. So, no offense meant to anyone, but that is the
Yeah.
biological word for
Yeah.
it. It is an
We
organ
growing
that
out
is
here.
correct. It's an organ that is naturally wet.
Yes.
So for
It
you
should be.
to, it should be, right? If not, then go check your doctor. So for someone to take advantage of me and tell me that I liked it because I was moist
Okay.
was confusing, and I didn't know because I was a child. So not knowing what that meant and understanding it was off-putting for me. So for me, I didn't trust. So that goes into the psychology of not trusting yourself and not trusting
Mm.
so that goes into life where you don't trust yourself, you don't trust your decision makings, you don't trust. So you're back and forth with everything. You're never grounded. You're never rooted. So that goes through life until you get healed. Anyways, so that led to teen dating violence. It led to instance of human trafficking when I was modeling. It was instance of then, of course, ultimately a domestically violent relationship where even in that
Hold
relationship,
on.
I was.
You said you went. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut your wisdom.
Oh, you're fine. You're
You
fine.
said you experienced human trafficking.
Yeah, so human trafficking comes in many forms. I had girls who were in my group I would say, were trafficked. I was locked up because my agent was trying to force me to perform sex acts to get a gig, and I was
You was in
held
a
against my
modeling.
will.
You was in a
Sorry.
modeling agency.
Yes, I was. I was part of Miami Urban Models in the 1997-98.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How old were you at this time? I ain't trying to put your age out there.
I was old enough. I was an
Okay.
adult.
Okay. Okay.
Not putting my age out there, but I'm grown. I was grown.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yes, anyways, I was a legal adult according to the law, the system of law. Not a drinking adult, but a legal adult.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so anyhow, yeah, so I had that experience and I decided to quit the agency because I was I knew within myself I had no reason to do what the other girls were doing because I was one of the top requested models. So I don't need to perform sex acts to get a gig. They're
Mm.
literally asking for me out
Yeah.
of more than the other girls. So
Yeah.
it was an experience of, no, you're not going to force me to do this. I have school. I'm supposed to be doing school. I'm missing class to do these gigs. You're not going to. So I was kind of locked up, left in the place, couldn't leave, because those double locks, double deadbolt locks.
Yeah.
Um, so
So
and
that would be
other
considered trafficking?
that it was an experience of trafficking. I had another experience where the guy so there the notion of trafficking is let me go to the other experience. The notion of trafficking is fraud, coercion, and force. So I wouldn't say that I was fully trafficked. I was exposed to trafficking and put in instances of human trafficking where I could have been trafficked.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Okay.
So if I didn't, so this is the thing. If I came back to that, because I was locked up and left for hours with no, and back then I didn't have cell phone. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when they came back, it was okay. So, you know, you're gonna do better next time. It was that kind of a setting where you can do better next time. You know what you need to do now. And I was like, yeah, I know what I need to do. and I left and I did not return to do any more gigs because I knew within my heart of hearts, if I came back to do any more gigs, that was it for me.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
have to, I would be forced. It would not be, the other guys would have been there to ensure that behaviors occurred.
Mm,
And I'll explain to you why it's considered trafficking because there are being held against your will, so those are elements of, we know them as kidnapping, but there's a trafficking component. It's forced to do things that
okay.
brings money to the other individual, but you're not getting paid,
Yeah.
right? I did it a guy. Um, Within a year or two after that experience, I was dating someone else, and because I was a dance student and loved to dance, they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna take you to the flea market and get you a cute outfit. I'm gonna take you to my friend's club this weekend. We're gonna go out." So it was the first time I was going out on a date in public. So I was like, "Okay, this is cool." Got there, I was told go in the back with this lady, and it was another instant situation of, "This is what you're gonna do, or you're not leaving here."
The guy you're dating?
The guy that I was dating was trying to get me on a pole. Yes. And apparently, what I found out was he had done that to other girls. And they bought into the narrative because they were college students also. And this was the way to get a car, get ahead. And that was what he sold as the dream.
Mm,
I was threatened by gunpoint in that instance to go ahead and do it. I still didn't do it. I was told that I wasn't going to leave until I do it. I still didn't do it. I made enough of a stink in the establishment, and someone else got involved, and that's why I was able to leave without having to do anything. Okay,
oh, that's
so
crazy.
those were my two instances where I got out by God's grace alone.
So,
Now,
do you, sorry, do you feel like these instances, do you feel like because of what happened to you when you were younger, do you feel like
yeah,
the energy of that led to all these things? You
yes,
attracting all
the
these things?
vulnerability, the vulnerability allowed me to be attracted to these elements. Yes,
Okay.
and let me just quantify for trafficking because I don't want it to downplay those who have gone through the full sexual exploitation element of trafficking.
Yeah.
There are types of trafficking. There are trafficking means anything that it has the elements of fraud. So you lied to me about where we're going, what we're going to do. You tried to coerce me and you tried to force me by gunpoint. Okay. I did not do, but I was in instances of human trafficking. You understand what I'm getting
Yeah.
at? I
Yeah.
want to make it clear. Now, human trafficking has the sex trafficking, which is very popular for everyone. We have the domestic servitude where they were invited to do a job as a babysitter, but now they're stuck. Their documents were taken. They're forced to stay there and work for minimal to no pay, and which is typically immigrants fall into these categories. They have no way out and they're forced to stay there doing this work, and they're not being properly compensated or taken care of. In the Black community, we see pimping is okay. He's just a pimp. He got a bunch of girls and they just
Yeah.
do tricks.
Yeah.
That's human trafficking. That is human trafficking.
Mm,
Um, we have instances where we have people that are doing work. Wage theft is a form of human trafficking, but we call it under the total umbrella of modern day slavery.
oh,
We
wage
have
theft?
child soldiers, wage theft. Yes, wage theft, where you working and you're not getting paid, you're not getting compensated what was agreed.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
wage
Okay.
theft. Yeah, that's wage theft.
Okay. All
And
right.
that's
I
a
get
form of modern day slavery, which is the overarching umbrella of human trafficking,
Okay.
right? Um, and there are other different types. I'm not going to belabor the topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see someone has a hand up, it looks like, but that was that experience. And because of my vulnerabilities, I one there the you call it energy, but it's a spiritual attack. The familiar spirits attract themselves to you. They find you, seek you out, and they're like, I can tell she's
Mm,
one. Yeah, let me get her.
mm,
Like I'm making it very childish, but that's like I
yeah.
want people to easily understand. That's what it is. Like they see it on you, and they're just like, okay, I could sense it. I'm gonna attach myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are people that pick up vulnerabilities and will find themselves and connect themselves to you and exploit that relationship as long as you allow them to.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but there was always a level of the rebel in me was still there. As much as I came into these situations, I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna go out fighting tooth and nail. That
Okay.
type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, and it ended up in a marriage that was littered with domestic violence. The signs were there, but again, looking for the validation from the person because I was
Mm.
vulnerable, and he validated my existence.
What
Um,
kind of signs would you say you were seeing that you kind of like overlooked?
he when we were dating and we went out, he would have an issue where if guys were gawking at my shape,
Mm-hmm.
he would have a whole fit and want to fight people because
Fight them
I was
or
shaped
fight
to
you?
fight them. Like, there's no
Oh,
reason for this. They're admiring me. I am with you. Let's keep it going. We've been out. I stopped going out with him because almost every time we went out, because of my shape, it would be an issue because someone staring or someone would try to comment. I'm not paying attention to them, not listening, but then I would be blamed that it's my fault.
oh.
So those were red flags.
So
Um,
so what would you call that? Like a guy who doesn't like, is there a medical term for like men who don't like other men to like stare at their woman?
insecurity,
Okay. All
narcissism.
right. Okay. Oh, so because a lot of these terms are now like popping up, like gaslighting, narcissist, I mean, I've been called that, in the past, but I'm like, okay, I know there's different like
Medical
different definitions.
term. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out because I mean, I didn't experience that until down here, like where dudes get fired up because a guy's looking at their girl, and I'm like, bro, if you think your girl is a baddie, there's 9 times out of 10, there's another man
Another
that
one.
thinks she's a baddie too.
Exactly.
So I
Correct.
never
Correct.
understood that. Like, bro, I'm the type of guy, I'm gonna slap the booty, like, yo, you like that? Like, it look good, don't it?
It's mine, right?
It's mine. Yeah, I,
Exactly.
I got it right now.
That's how my husband is now. He would be like, "Yeah, it's mine, all mine.
Yeah,
Enjoy,
like
because I'm taking this home. This is coming. She's coming home with
that's
me,
what
not you.
I would be
So
thinking. Like,
enjoy."
hey,
Correct.
not to
But
about the
that's a mature male too, right? There's
okay.
immaturity, there's insecurity, there's a lot that's rooted in their own childhood experiences. There's a lot rooted in their understanding of what manhood is, right? What it
Mm,
is to be a man.
okay,
So those are again cognitive retooling. I have to help you unlearn the cultural negatives and toxic masculinity that you learn.
okay,
I have to help you unlearn that, and you have to be willing to unlearn that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So yeah, so yeah, those are the signs.
okay,
I'm going to premise this with she and I have had a conversation about this since, and we have forgiven each other, and gone through uh, a healing from this instance. But shortly after we were married, I was it was like it was maybe December, and I was due in May, so probably like 4 or 5 months pregnant. We went to see my sister-in-law's brand new baby. She had him in
hmm
November. Went to the house to visit. I think it was just around Christmas. We took a gift to her,
hmm
and we went down to see the baby. And so we just let her know at that time we were pregnant. And she went and pulled her sawed-off shotgun, and she shot, and it jammed. And I picked up my stuff and I ran out the house, and I was like, "Let's go." And I should have at that point in time just gone and filed a divorce. But I was like, there was the whole my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and my the family at the time that I was with. They were like, "No, no, 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 no. She's a little, she has epilepsy. Her brain isn't right, and she's not thinking straight. And it was, just forgive her." I was like, "Why does she have a gun if that's the issue? And why would
Oh
she allow
wow,
to go and get it and put it right in front of me, dead center to my stomach, and pull the
hmm
trigger? I would have died if it didn't jam.
yeah, wow.
Point blank range.
It wasn't your time.
It wasn't correct, but that was a I mean a red paint across my face for me to have
Yeah,
known
yeah.
they have a lot of issues in their bloodline. Just leave.
Oh
Anyway, we
yeah, you
worked through
gotta
that.
check the
Like she and
bloodline
I,
now. Yeah,
well,
yeah.
she
I
and I
tell
have
people
worked through
that.
that.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. If I knew that, I got 2 kids. If I knew that from before, like the importance of checking bloodline, how your relationship is, or how your
Yes,
mom is, how your dad is,
yes.
because that stuff. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Because I'm
No,
like,
no, no. You're fine. But it's true. It's so true. My children understand that and know. Listen, do your research before you get connected to these people. I
Yeah.
mean, whether they listen to me or not is a different thing. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. At least you know you
I
told them.
correct my oldest, which is my husband's daughter, which I don't have any steps. I have bonus babies. It's my bonus.
Okay, I like
She was in a
that. Bonus baby.
relationship. She was in a relationship, and he was teasing her about, well, y'all been together for so long, y'all gonna get married and then have babies or something. She was like, no, I got sickle cell trait, and so does he. We're not having no kids because we're not gonna run the risk of our kid coming out and going through what we went through, or even having full blown sickle cell, right?
Mm,
But that's
okay.
because we had a conversation of understand your medical history and your family history with whomever you're dating
Yeah.
before, because, that's wisdom. It's not
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
elitist or scrutinizing and judging people. It's just wisdom because you can avoid a lot of issues down the road. Like the challenge of dealing with a child that has that type of a sickness that brings the financial, the psychological, the emotional, the physical distress that comes from that, it could be avoided if you paid attention to what's going on medically with you, right?
Mm.
So my
So you
kids
don't feel
know,
like everybody should have kids?
no, not everybody should have kids. My mama shouldn't have had kids. I told that to her face. Not everybody's supposed to have kids. I do not know. I don't think so.
Really?
We need to
Okay,
look
this
at
is
ourselves.
interesting.
We need to look at ourselves. Like, really, we need to. I made a joke some years ago with one of my professors, and I was like, I think we need to have a test for kids in high school that they need to go through some real serious questions to understand what having a child is like. Because if
Mhm.
you know that you have a propensity to be selfish, if you know that you don't have patience, if you know that you don't like to wake up early, right? That you love to stay in your bed and sleep, don't have children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that child's gonna suffer unnecessarily because you want to sleep. The child gonna sit there crying their eyes out all the time, or you're gonna wake up and you're gonna be miserable and ill treat the child, or you're selfish. The child's gonna always go with. You ever see those mamas that look so sexy in the street? Their kids running around, their hair ain't done, the clothes all raggedy.
Yeah, that's a red flag to me. Like
Correct. You
I'm
shouldn't
real
have been
big
a
when it
mama.
comes to the kids. Yeah, like when I look at the mom and I look at the kids and I'm like, oh, hold on, like, okay, yeah, nah.
Correct. My
Those is
kids
red
eat
flags.
first. Listen, my kids eat first. If nothing is left, I swallow water and I tell the Lord, "Thank you for my meal."
So you take
My kids.
out your kids' plate first or your husband's plate first?
Oh, well, in our household, we do buffet style.
Okay. Because that's a big thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to
But
take the man plate
but
out first, and then you
well,
have some women that say
um,
they taking their kids' plate out first. So
we
whose
are an
plate?
equal opportunity household. The food is served, and you line up and you come and you get your food.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so you do that for real? Like you just cook the food and
Yeah,
everybody, but who in the line first though? Who
yeah.
you?
Whoever
Who's
comes in the
first in
line
line?
first, we don't fight that. And my husband is the first one to say, "Let the kids eat first. I'll eat after." My husband is like that. He would be like, "I
Okay,
won't eat." He's like,
okay,
"I'll eat whatever the leftovers are. I'm fine." That's the type of person he's not one that it's like, but when we're out in public, I serve him first before I eat. Like I go get my babe his plate and then I get mine,
yeah,
right? But no, at home, no, it's equal opportunity household, and my kids have been in the kitchen since they're small, so everybody pitches in the cooking process.
okay, okay.
So it makes it more of a communal experience.
Hmm.
So cooking is communal and familial, and serving out the food and getting the food continues in that same vein.
Okay, no, I like that. No,
Yeah,
so not to get to get on a higher perspective,
no, that's
right?
fine. Go ahead.
Have you ever heard of the term where we chose our parents? Like, we exist in another realm. So before we got here, we chose that path. Have you ever heard of that? Are you
I,
familiar with that?
I've heard that. I've heard that.
Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I I would say that God chose the parents for us,
Mm-hmm.
and not that we chose our parents particularly. God chose the parents for us, but also if we start looking at um so in that topic of the parents and the child and the connections, we look at one generational, the lineage, the family, the history of the family, right? You'll see a lot of similarities throughout the family with not just features,
Uh-huh.
but mannerisms and behaviors that
Correct.
come down genetically. And also, there's a nature and the nurture argument, but there are some things that come down genetically and others that are learned behaviors. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So those are why we have those connections to our parents. And sometimes you find kids that are adopted and they find their biological family years later, and they're like, oh my gosh, you have the same mannerisms as so and so and so and
Yes.
so.
Yes.
Those are things that are passed on genetically. Um, I do believe that we, because we learn from our parents, we are close, similar, very similar to them, even as much we might want to say that we're not.
Yes.
And sometimes it'll skip a generation, right? Because you're so clear in your refusal to be um, as similar, as close to what you saw in your parents, that
Mhm.
you actively work towards healing those elements, and then you become a different version. But then
Yes. Yes.
your child could still be born with those same mannerisms. So it's not that they chose the grandparent or chose the parent, but I think it's just that there are things that run through our bloodline.
Okay. Because I would say like what you said. I don't know if that was your daughter. You said that she didn't want to have a child because of the sickle cell trait. Okay.
My bonus daughter.
Okay. So what if they actually had the child and that child was the one who said, you know what, I have the trait, but I'm the one that's going to do the research to heal our generation of that, generational trauma that we would say, you know what I'm saying? Like eating the proper foods and stuff like that. So that's where
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like,
Yes. So she's also, so even because she knows that she's living differently, she's changing her eating habits, she's changing
yeah,
it because even with the trait, there are some symptoms. You will get crises to an extent, and you have other medical challenges. So
hmm,
she's aware of that because she knows what she has and she understands the repercussions of it.
hmm,
She lives a life differently so that she's able to live healthy and long with
yeah,
the challenges that she faces. So that in itself is her choosing to change and shift the course of the lineage,
yes,
right?
yeah,
Um, yeah. So yeah, it can
yeah,
happen. Like for me, I'm that one in my family. Like
okay,
I'm, the proverbial black sheep,
yeah,
right? I don't conform to
yeah,
what they say is the thing, and I grew up there. My family, both sides, grew up in the church.
hmm,
Um, but to say that they lived biblically, I can't say that.
yeah,
And I
okay,
will be bold enough to say on this platform that's many of them they grew up in the church, but they don't live biblically.
okay,
And when I say that, the Bible is my guidepost for life, not
okay,
a church, not a denomination, not a religious
hmm,
group. So
hmm,
if I see things written in the Word and I'm living according to the Word, and you're doing differently, but yet you're in the pulpit, and then you want to come to me as your niece or nephew or grandchild and tell me something, I've always been the one to push back and say, this is what I read in the book. What are you saying? Because what you're saying don't make sense.
okay, okay. No, I get what you're saying.
And I get in trouble for that. So I'm the one in the family so I'm shifting things. Like I'm not just going to be churchgoer. I'm going to be a word liver,
Mm,
right?
a
And that is
word
like
liver.
pushing.
Okay,
Yeah. So I live by the word. I don't know about the church. I go to church. I'm part of a church. I'm part of a ministry. I'm a licensed minister and all that. I'm, part of God's vessels of use.
okay. You
But what
a
I'm getting at is,
licensed minister too?
yes.
Oh, she about to be like, "Yeah." And I'm also a licensed plumber as well. So
No, no,
if the
no, no, no,
phrase,
no, 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 no.
okay.
But I do handiwork though. My dad's a contractor, so yes, I get in
Okay.
there and do it. I'll change my tire and just keep it going. If I can't, my
What,
husband's at
you know
work
how
and
to
I
change
can't
your
get
own
nobody.
tire?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Yes,
this is
sir.
crazy.
I almost did it the other day because Geico was taking too long to come with their roadside assistant. I was getting fed up. I called my friend. She's right here on the line. I was like, girl, come. I'm about to take this tire off, put it in the back of your car, and go get this thing patched because this don't make no sense. I'm sitting here waiting for so long. Yes. In a dress, in
Wow.
heels, about to take it
In a
off.
dress,
Yes.
she about to take out the jack. Like, yo,
It
we
was
got to
already
get this.
out. It was
She,
already out and jacked up. It was. I promise you it was.
ah, I
So, but
love
anyway,
that. I love that. I love
get
that. So
it
okay.
done. Just get it and
So
get it done.
So you said you follow the word and things like that.
Yeah.
So seeing that you're healing out loud,
hmm
did you how did the word help you in that instance, or was it more of a spiritual thing that you had to go through? Because I know you said earlier, like, you had to deal with a lot of spiritual entities from what happened when you were a child.
Yes. yes, yes. Um, so March, I posted it on my post this March 18, 2023. I was non-responsive for 28 minutes in the hospital. Prior to that, I hadn't been on the platform of ministering or speaking, preaching, or having any conversations in any public settings about the word for years because I just walked away from religion, right? Not my faith, not my spiritual connection with God,
Okay.
but religion for a while. So on a prayer line, they asked me to speak, so I told part of my story that night in the message. I used Genesis uh, 50, 20, somewhere on there. I was using the story of Joseph.
Hmm.
And that was the message. The morning I woke up not feeling well. And from the next morning, I woke up not feeling well. And that entire week went on to my health deteriorating. My husband came home Saturday morning, the 18th, and looked at me. I looked like the David Chappelle when he did that crackhead skit with the white lips and you looking sick and you like, I looked emaciated like a raisin and white lips. He took a
Oh
picture of me.
wow.
So he was like, you look like you're going to die. Taking you to emergency room. Got there, blood pressure 30 over 50. They rushed me in, stuck me over 20 times to get into IV. By the time they got that done, rushed me into MRI, came out. I don't remember anything after that. They were working on me. I got woke up. So during the time that I was not present in this realm, I was in a room in a chair with a bright enough light behind me, but the room was basically dark.
So you
And the
like
voice was
astral
loud.
projected
No,
or
no, 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 no. We're not talking about astral project. That's different. That's not of God. That's a whole different thing, my love. That's a whole different thing. This was an encounter with God. This was an encounter with God.
account?
We'll
So you
get
had like
back
an
to
out
this.
of body
Not
experience? Like what was
out
happening?
of body experience either, because it wasn't like I was out of my body or saw my body. I just woke up in a different realm.
Okay,
I
all
woke
right,
up. I
interesting.
remember my eyes closing because I came out from the MRI machine, and I, seeing them moving me through, and then it was blank darkness, and then I woke up, and I'm basically sitting in a chair in this room where in front of me was like you can see it's a room with nothing in it, but then there was this bright light emanating from behind me, and there was this powerful voice, booming voice, but yet it was peaceful, speaking to me
What
about
language was it
things.
speaking?
English, my language. I mean, I understood.
Okay.
Understood.
Okay. I know if it
Um,
was like Aramaic or
no, 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 no,
okay,
no.
okay.
It was just like, why you're here. And I was like, here, where, what am I doing? And it was, and now I know that it had to have been the voice of God.
Was it
But
male or female?
I don't remember. It was more male, masculine, I guess, because it was a powerful voice. But I never
Okay.
even really this is the first time I even thought about that. Was it male or female? But I know it was God. I know it
Okay.
was the presence. I know it was a holy presence because I couldn't even move out my seat. Like I tried to turn around and talk back and be like, "What you mean I didn't do what you said to do?" Like that
Yeah.
was part of the conversation,
Yeah.
and it was like I couldn't move to look, and I was like, "Oh wait, you need to be humble." Like in that moment, I caught myself like, "Yo, you're not talking back to some regular
Hmm.
person. You're in the presence of the Almighty." Anyways, and it was a conversation of, you know, you should have done this by now, this, that, and the
Yeah.
other. And I left with instructions. Like I woke back up and knew what I
Okay.
had to do and went straight into doing it. Like immediately after coming out of the hospital, I was on sick leave for I think like 2 weeks, and I sat and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote
So
and I
what
wrote and I
happened? Like
planned.
what led you to the hospital? Like what was that? Or were you
They
having a
don't know.
so the hospital don't know they did all of the MRI, they did all of that. They don't know what was wrong
They
with
did
you.
every day. Listen to me. Every single day they came in testing my blood. I drew like 4 or 5 vials a day of blood multiple times a day because they had to test my blood because there was poisons. Like there was some toxin in my blood, and they got to figure out what's going on with my liver. All my organs were failing with no explanation.
Wow. Well, the hospitals, they don't be knowing that. That's why they call it,
Prac-
medical practice.
Medical practice. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. But we
they just
also
be there
like
practicing.
practicing and figuring out. Yeah, but they ran every possible test under the sun. I was in the hospital for 10 days, and I know that you know when there's no explanation in the natural for things that happen, there
Yeah.
is a spiritual reasoning. behind it. So
Mm.
I know it was an instance of spiritual warfare, and it wasn't the first one that I've experienced in my life. So I was aware and I understood what it was, but it was an experience where I had that awakening and understanding that you can't keep pussyfooting around on this earth. There's a purpose that you have. You need to stop smalling up yourself, like you said. At the beginning we talked
Yeah.
about minimizing yourself. Stop doing that.
So it wasn't like
And
no OBI, no nothing like that. Nobody sending no nothing towards you.
there was
It
a
was
person
more.
that, yes, there was an element of that also. Um, it was revealed to me in prayer and in the revelation of another individual um who's a prophetic individual, that
Mhm.
there was someone, and she gave a description, and I was like, I couldn't, well, she didn't, she just said there was an old coworker. And I was
Mhm.
like, who? And I'm like going through my list of like who it was, and I was like, I don't know. And then my husband came home. So one person said it, then another one reminded me, because some friends were at the house. They came to visit me after the hospital. One of my friends, she's very, very much in the prophetic. She said the same thing that my
Mhm.
cousin had said.
Mhm.
And I was like, but which coworker? I don't know who coworker, which, I'm trying to think down to like who's connect,
Yeah,
my husband,
who could be
who could it
hating?
be?
Like who
Exactly.
the hell?
So
You don't know who.
then my husband, so they were at my house late, and and then my husband came home from work, and he was like, oh, how's it with the girls? I said, it was good. He's like, oh, okay, by the way, this is the first thing he said out of his mouth. After good night, give me a kiss. How was it with the girls? I said it was good. We had fun. And he said, then the next thing he said was, by the way, what happened to your friend so and so and so? And I got such a chill down my spine.
Mhm.
And I went into
Mm.
prayer because I knew exactly who it was, that he had to be the one to come and tell me who it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
It was a prophetic utterance through him to tell me who it was.
Prophetic
Right?
utterance. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I gotta write this down. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah. So from then I knew what I had to do. I went ahead and did all my stuff, got my paperwork done. I've been doing this work that I do in Unmute Yourself for many years as part of other people's organizations, volunteering and suggesting and helping and being a great support to other people's work. But I've
Yeah,
never wanted to own it as mine, because I didn't want to talk about my own experiences with
yeah, yeah.
sexual violence.
No, yeah.
And and it's I realized that in this space, as I share, this is the first time I'm actually going on live on air, sharing my story. I've shared it in smaller settings,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
but every time I haven't shared I don't share the full thing, but every time I share smaller parts of my story,
Mm-hmm.
there's someone that self discloses, hey, that was me.
Yeah,
I'm going through that, or I dealt
yeah,
with that, and I didn't have the words to explain it, or I didn't know someone else was going through this. I thought it was just me. So I realized that it's a healing process. So that's why I'm
yeah.
healing out loud. Once I am
Mm.
sharing my story and speaking up about it and being transparent and being open, other people can heal. I'm healing. Healing is
Yeah.
an ongoing process. So
No,
I'm
correct.
healing, and as I'm healing, and I know that I'm healed, as I've been sharing my story over the last year and a half now, I don't cry when I tell my story. There is a joy that comes from telling my story. There is a freeing that comes from sharing my story, because like every time I share my story, I feel like the chains that were muting me keep falling off. Right?
But could there be where, do you think maybe you're not crying because there's still a certain blockage? Because, there are different levels of like tears. There's tears of joy,
So
there's tears of like
yes,
release, you
yes. So
know?
I've been through the weeping of pain.
Hmm.
I've been through the catharsis of which is the joy of weeping. I've been through um the not joy, that's a healing of weeping rather, and I've been through the joy of weeping, right?
Okay.
Um I so when I say cry, not just literal tears. Like I don't feel the tinge in my heart,
Okay.
that
Okay.
that burning tinge when you're like your heart's broken, or someone hurts you, or you
Yeah.
feel betrayed or something.
Yeah.
That is, I don't have that in my heart. Like my heart is healed.
Okay.
And that was another thing that when I was in the hospital, I had don't have it. There was an issue of a heart condition that was exacerbated during that time, and I've since been healed from it. Okay, God
Mm.
has healed. I must claim my healing in God. I don't have that issue
So are you self?
anymore.
Did you self heal, or did the doctor have to go to a doctor?
Prayer and diet change and fasting, yes, that's what healed me. I will say that was what healed me. Mhm.
Okay, so it was more like self. So do you
God,
believe that you would
not
have to?
self. God, don't get me trapped up. Don't get me caught up with God. God
Okay,
healed me.
okay,
Okay.
yes, God healed you.
The
So do you feel
instructions.
like you had to sit down on somebody's couch, like maybe have the conversation with somebody else in
Oh, you mean as far as
more
my
therapeutic?
my ment? Yeah. So I did some therapy. And
Okay,
remember, I told you I took courses. So I was taking courses, psychology courses, to move into the therapy space
okay,
because
okay,
they say that people tend to go to psychology when they know they need therapy, so they go to learn it so they could help heal themselves.
yeah,
Um, so that's why I'm a psychosocialist because I did psychology for a period. Now I did therapy for a while. I did the 8 sessions that were given to you from the
okay,
university,
okay.
and by the sixth session, she was like, "I don't think you need to come back. You're doing all the things you need to do to heal yourself. You're journaling. You're being introspective. You're changing your
Mm,
environments. You're good." And I'm
okay,
like, "No,
okay.
I need my 8 sessions." So
Yeah,
I
I
took
was
my
gonna get
eight
my eight
sessions
sessions.
because it
Yeah.
was, and this was years ago, but it was also it was me getting to a place of verbalizing and sharing and understanding and being confirmed in myself that it was never my fault,
Mm,
right?
no, yeah,
So
yeah.
that was necessary for me to go through that stage of it was never my fault.
So would you
So
say like
I did.
women who are like highly promiscuous in that way,
Hmm.
is that due to like past traumatic situations, whether it's
Yes.
molestation or okay, so that's
Yes.
not something like normal when they're like, man, I need that
No.
every day. Like, come in.
No. No. It was not. It's not. That's the spirit of lust that's overtaking you that is ruling your existence.
Mm,
Been there, done that. Been there, done that. There was a period of time because I know I was a woman in the church and I was married to my husband, my ex, that I wasn't going to
mm,
go out and do anything wrong. So I
mm,
kept the bullet with me because the spirit of lust was just that crazy. Yeah. I'm
mm.
going to be open about it. Yeah.
Okay, so sex every day, that's a traumatic thing.
It can be related to and usually is because there's people who have unnaturally high self sex drives have been found to have had some abnormal early experience through of someone, and many of them may not even remember it. Let me
Yeah.
go back. Let me clarify. It's and I would say 95% of the time, not all,
Hmm.
because there are people that would say, I never did. And I'm as a trauma coach, I'm a trauma coach. So I'm working with individuals now.
Yeah.
There are people who come to me with challenges of high sex drive and I'm just a
Hmm.
straight freak and da 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 da. And I
Yeah, I'm a
say, okay.
freak and
And
yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, okay, so what happened? Nothing happened to me, nothing. I have two individuals. And one of them I'll share part of the story. They were not they did not the person did not was not successful in touching their genitalia,
Hmm.
but the person was a cousin that tried and attempted to do it, but they
Hmm.
stopped the process, screamed out, and hollered. They didn't complain about it at first because the grandma is the type of person that will beat you behind for waking them up at night.
Yeah, yeah.
She then shared the concern, and then the grandma told her, just don't be around this, that, and the other. But from that point in time, she had other issues going on because I was so. What I'm getting at is the act wasn't done, but the understanding of the act and the trauma that came from that experience was still evident, right?
Mm.
And
Okay, okay.
that trauma creates an indentation in your psyche of violation, right? That leaves you vulnerable. Okay. And that vulnerability creates a need for a deeper level of validation. Okay.
Mm. So that means that's
So
the hypersexuality then. That's the hyper.
correct, because that creates my validation. because I'm
Ah,
vulnerable.
okay,
Okay?
okay, okay, okay.
And then it becomes the desire is also there because that organ is an organ of stimuli. So once it's stimulated, it wants to continually be stimulated. And it
Mm,
desires a stimulation. And if it's especially the stimulation is connected to vulnerability, that is going to be the case. So if you have an issue in a relationship and this is there's research, there's experience talking, there's research
yeah,
talking. Okay.
yeah.
If you're in a relationship and there is an adverse situation, that need for validation goes back to the skill set of, you knowing that you can handle things in that manner. You will forever use that as a tool to control. You will use it as a tool to create peace.
Mm-hmm,
You'll use it as a tool for manipulation.
mm-hmm,
You'll use it as a tool for your upper hand. Okay?
mm-hmm. Boss Lady Key said having a
Having a
libido is
yes, that
biological.
is a
You're
healthy
attracted to your
relationship with a healthy
partner.
libido. Yes. I have a healthy libido because we have a healthy relationship. And yes, you're gonna want to have sex as much as possible because it's a healthy libido with healthy relationship. We're not talking about healthy relationships here. We're talking about situations where there are individuals that want to go out and be promiscuous and screw everything that moves.
Okay.
Men or women. It's not just women, or it's not just women either. I'm talking about men or women. I work as a trauma coach with men that have issues. Tiger Woods has issues from his childhood why he was out there being a sex addict.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's why he had to go into therapy and rehab.
Yeah.
It is a thing. If there is some level, any type of trauma, it does not
But
always have to be molestation.
but that could
Any type
be
of trauma that
in a
creates vulnerability.
relationship. Like I used to talk to a girl like that, and she wanted like, yo, man, want it all the time, all the time. And I'm like, nah, I
But
mean, I
that's
didn't know none of the
validation. It
yeah.
creates validation.
I ain't
That's the
know
thing
none of
that makes
the
validation.
yeah, I didn't know none of the terms that you know, but I was just like, yeah, nah, this ain't normal. You know what I'm saying? Something your root chakra, something off here. You know what I'm saying? Something's off here if we have to continuously be humping like rabbits. You know what I'm
But
saying?
that's because that brings validation, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
There's a
that's what you're
notion,
saying.
listen,
That's the root of it is the validation.
the violation that creates the vulnerability that needs to now be validated. Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
So what do you think brings the disconnection? Like people from, people not able to see it from a conscious state. Like some people that are denial, that's like, nah, I just like to do it like that. That's just me. What do you think causes that gap, like from them not to see it from a conscious level?
What's to see what from a conscious level?
Like that
Said it
they're
again.
that they're dealing with the lack of
So
validation.
listen, it's not always evident,
Yeah,
right? And it's not something that is an easy conversation for
yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
When you've gone through things, you've already either been told to shut up and forget about it, or you've had to push past it because survival
Hmm.
has forced you to push past it.
Hmm.
You don't always want to go back and dig up those old wounds, right? So if
Mm.
someone comes to you with that consciousness and wants to speak to you, you have
Okay.
to be careful how you approach it.
Yeah, yeah. Not
Like
everybody's
in my
willing,
coaching,
but yeah,
in my coaching, I take time to go through what are your challenges,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where are you feeling the disc? And as they're speaking, um, there are things that come up and are indicators of, okay, well, let's talk about this age. Well, how do you respond to um, when you get stressed? Like, have you ever looked at a person and they're in a moment of like stress and anxiety, and they turn into like a 14-year-old? You're like, yo,
Or they
you
get
just
like
turned into a kid.
childlike. They like
Yeah.
laughing and
Or
he.
not even that, they just like their whole voice changes, it goes up and it gets all squeaky like a kid, and then they do things that are like childish,
Yeah,
like, or
yeah,
that you would see a teenager behave and do, and you're like, this person's a 52-year-old person, what are they doing,
yeah,
like, what's
yeah,
wrong?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then you have a conversation with them, and it's usually like, hey, so what happened to you in like teenage years, like middle school, because you tend to revert to that whenever. And they're like, I don't even want to talk about that. And you ease into it in conversation, whether it's a relationship or whatever.
mm,
But there's something there, and it's usually that. So trauma makes indentations in our brains like deep ravines, right? And sometimes as that deep indentation goes in, there it's indenting over other indentations of good memories
When you
and
say
positive experiences in the life.
indentation, like
Like
what does that mean?
so your brain has creases in it.
Hmm. Now we
And so
going to science now.
every crease is a memory
Okay.
that is made in your brain.
Hmm.
Okay. When we have traumatic ones, they're deeper ingrained. So if I'm now, let's think I have a road
Hmm.
and the road has pathways and then an earthquake comes and breaks it up. Those
Hmm.
pathways are no longer connected because the earthquake separated them.
Hmm.
So then those positive memories are overwritten by the trauma.
Mm.
Right.
Okay.
So there are people sometimes where their trauma blocks certain parts of their lives. So you have people say, "Oh, you need to go back and do your that inner that
That inner child work.
yeah, exactly, inner child work." And I'm careful with what the terms I'm using because it could be construed
Yeah, yeah,
incorrectly
yeah.
depending on where. But that deep work, the root work is the
Yeah,
word,
okay,
sorry, the root work,
okay.
right? Which
That
is
shadow work.
but it's your inner child work. So you go back to the inner child and see what the inner child needs
Hmm.
and have those, conversations. Yes, it's also for your own protection, for your memory, for your brain to remember how to respond so you can pick up the signs and signals, but it doesn't always work well for everyone, right?
No, yeah,
Correct.
yeah, yeah,
Doesn't always work well. But it breaks up old, positive memories and it creates a void and there are other issues. So a lot of times going back to those places creates another level of trauma and pain and frustration.
mm,
But it's what I'm getting at, it's healthy because as you go back and heal that, you rebuild and those memories will then start to come back.
okay.
That's what I was trying
So you see how
to
she said it's for your own protection.
correct.
Do you
I said
think
that.
that could be like a form of self-sabotage? Like when you have some women that don't know how to allow a man to love on them because they're, or men too, I ain't gonna say
Correct.
some
Both
men, but
sides, yes. Both,
yeah, it's
yeah.
both sides, but I'm speaking from my, you know what I'm saying? Do you think that's
It's a survival instinct. It's for your and I said that too earlier that it is meant for your protection,
okay?
so that you continue to remember. You'll have that memory, so you don't allow it to happen to you again. But it doesn't always work that way
Yeah,
because what happens is, which is what you're saying, is you think you see the red flag and you project your trauma
thank
in this
you.
situation. The person was trying to actually help you navigate back to that place for healing. And that
Yes,
happens in my work also. That
yeah,
happens in my work also. I was out speaking one of the times I recently shared my story and I was talking about it. And this woman, she was like, I used it in the spiritual because we were at the church at the time it happened. I was like, them demons was manifested. She wanted to fight me. I wasn't speaking to her directly. I was just talking about my story and answering the
yeah,
question.
but she
And
caught it
she
though.
was triggered. She
Yeah,
was
yeah,
triggered.
she was
And she was
triggered.
triggered.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's what it does. So trauma memories bring up those triggers for you to be on guard and be
yeah,
alert.
yeah,
But
yeah.
sometimes those triggers are false triggers,
Hmm.
right?
Oh my God, yeah, we gonna have to do a part two because and get you in the studio because I don't know, it's just we're just continuously going on and on and on and on. But this has been so
So
great, Queen.
So I wanted to say, so we talked about faith,
Yeah,
and I know
yeah,
not everybody is a believer, but
yeah.
I did share with you that I use the good book as my guidepost for life.
Okay,
So
okay.
this is just my sample copy.
Where everybody could get that at, or
So they got to DM me right now because I am having them update the size of the book.
okay,
Um, I wanted it to be a pocket-sized, power-packed book of prayers, which is what it
okay,
is. But I got the pocket size, and I'm like, it's a little too tiny.
okay,
But
okay.
it has prayers in it, and this is so. What I did was, um, like I told you, I was journaling throughout my life and challenges and different things,
Yes,
and I
yes.
realized that I would find scriptures that speak to what I'm dealing with,
Hmm.
and find instructions in the good book about how to navigate it. So I have compiled 31 days of prayers plus another 7 bonus week of prayers for people who have gone through challenges, who are survivors of any type of violence.
Yeah.
And then I have another 7 prayers of just in case you might need.
Okay.
So it's like prayers about freedom from your shame and guilt, prayers for inner healing,
Mm-hmm.
prayers for trust and restoration of relationships,
Yes.
for your inner strength and resilience, renewing your self worth, even courage to share your story, right? Find courage to
Yes.
share your
Yes.
story.
That's a big one right
Um,
there.
wisdom in parenting, maintaining the calm amidst the chaos in parenting, because yeah, navigating, divorce with kids and having to parent them and
Yeah, that's a
deal
big
with the
one too.
challenges, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so anyway,
That's
so
gonna
I
have to be a
have been,
part two, the divorce
of course,
with
of
kids. Yeah, because
course.
that's the big one out here. Times is changing, and a lot of these kids are growing up, in single family households, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to like navigate their emotions. They're having a lot of anxiety because of the shift and the change. So I definitely we got to get you in the studio for that one. And
Definitely,
let
definitely.
everybody
We'll work
know
it
where
out.
they can find you at.
So you can find me at Unmute Yourself INC on Instagram. I have a website. It's unmuteyourself.org. It's currently being revamped, but on there you will find resources. If you need some information about navigating domestic violence or any other type of sexual violence, human trafficking, teen dating violence. We are located in Broward County. We do workshops in Miami-Dade also. Mostly right now, I'm working in cities of Lauderhill and Tamarack and Lauderdale Lakes. And I am available. My team, not just me, I have a team of individuals, some college students, and a few other professionals that we go out and we speak about these topics in the community. If you are needing therapy, we have a network of therapists that have pro bono programs where you can come in on income restriction to get help. I am a trauma coach, not a therapist. I do have a coaching program where we help you find the trauma, understand the trauma, and develop coping mechanisms for dealing and healing from your trauma.
Mm,
So,
I love that. I love that. Man, this has been so great, Queen. We're gonna have to do this again for
thank
sure.
you.
Thank you for coming
Thank
on
you.
and blessing us with all your wisdom and knowledge.
Thank you so much. It was fun. It was fun.
Oh yeah,
I
this
mean,
was good.
I don't even think we talked about what we said we were going to talk about,
I
but it
know.
was fun today.
But that's the beauty. That's how it goes. When the cameras come on, it could go any which way. You know what I mean?
Yes,
But I still
definitely.
think we gave them some nuggets to go away with and download and process.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And I thank Boss Lady for her contributions because, yes, you know, um, your
Yes, please.
relationship has to be symbiotic. Your relationship has to be symbiotic. It has to be give and take.
Yeah,
And if one is
yeah.
giving too much and the other is taking, it can be manipulative and, and then it can have the challenge with the different libidos. So we have to find a happy balance, a
Yes.
healthy
You
balance.
gotta be equally
Definitely.
yoked, right? That's what they say. You gotta be equally.
Exactly. Yes, and that is listen. That's a whole conversation, and sermon
Yeah.
in itself, right? Because it's not just even marital relationship; it's business relationships, it's
Yes.
friendships. Like,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah. No,
yeah,
you're right about that. You gotta be equally yoked.
yes, in
All
all
right, doctor.
things.
It was
Take
a
care.
pleasure chatting up with you.
Lovely chatting.
Yes,
Lovely
of course.
chatting. We'll
Thank you for
talk soon.
everybody that joined on. This was
Yes,
lovely.
thank you all
You're
for
gonna see
coming.
all the clips. Go to the YouTube channel. That's where it's gonna be. All right. You already know it's Mr. Williams signing out.